This is the story of Johannes Gutenberg and his invention of the printing press, and how this invention changed church history forever. Before the printing press was invented, books, including Bibles, were produced one by one in workshops called scriptoria. Here, scribes used quill pens and ink to meticulously copy each handwritten book. Some of these scribes were monks or nuns living in monasteries, and other scribes were workers in commercial shops that sold books to wealthy customers. Since it took scribes a long time to copy each book by hand, books were very expensive. Even worse, many errors arose in their work since they were copying by hand. In universities, works of literature were listed for students to read. Some students obtained books by hiring themselves out as scribes, which also helped them earn money for their college tuition and board. Others only read books by hearing them read aloud in class. During this time, debate began to arise on certain beliefs and political issues. Students heard a wide variety of opinions that reflected those of different religions. As these issues began to arise, Gutenberg invented the printing press, which positively changed several aspects of church history. Johannes Gutenberg was born around 1400 CE in Mainz, Germany. This city was right in the center of Europe and played a significant role in the political and commercial development of Germany. Mainz was a very successful city and developed greatly, contributing to the long-lasting effects of Gutenberg's printing press in the future. After his parents passed away, Gutenberg moved to Strasbourg. This city was well known for metal crafts such as bell making and jewelry making, and Gutenberg was attracted to this city because of the opportunity to learn more about metallurgy. In the 1440s, Gutenberg began experimenting with ways of printing to create a faster, cheaper way of producing books. Several other Europeans were looking for a faster, cheaper way to produce books during this time as well. However, Gutenberg had an advantage. He was skilled in engraving and metalworking. While living in Strasbourg, Gutenberg created several ideas such as a handheld mold, a durable tin alloy, an oil-based ink, and a modified printing press. By 1440, he had invented all the necessary components for mass-produced printing. But if he printed anything in Strasbourg, it did not survive. Gutenberg's printing press consisted of several parts, including a vertical wood screw, a horizontal lever which turned the screw, a wood platen which pressed paper against the type, and a type form which was slid under the raised platen. Paper was put into a paper holder which was folded over the type form. The printing press also included leather balls stuffed with hair or wool which were used to ink the type. In 1448, Gutenberg returned to Mainz to borrow money for his printing business. However, he failed to pay back the loans, so in 1455 his creditor and partner foreclosed, taking possession of his printing press for two projects to complete: a Bible, printed in 42 lines per page, and a Psalter. Thus there was never any printed material to survive that bore Gutenberg's name. By the following August, a copy of Gutenberg's 42-line Bible, specifically Jerome's Latin translation, the Vulgate, was completed. This Bible was printed simultaneously on 6 printing presses, and it was beautiful. Some collectors say the first printed book is the most beautiful book ever printed, and they paid significant amounts of money for the 40 or 50 copies that survived out of the original 200. Gutenberg's printing press was spread throughout Europe by 1483, and within 50 years of Gutenberg's first Bible, more copies of books were produced than in several of the previous centuries together. The invention of Gutenberg's printing press significantly impacted the history of the Church. First, the printing press allowed books to be produced in quantities and at prices that made them available to many people, not just scholars and monks. Because texts were being reproduced a lot faster, booksellers could distribute the books to a wide reading audience at a price much cheaper than a handwritten copy. In the Church, the Protestant Reformation might have been impossible if it were not for Gutenberg's invention. Everything the Reformers said about the priesthood of all believers was rooted in the assumption that people could have access to the Bible in their own language. The rise of the printing press set the stage for Luther, Calvin, and other reformers. They challenged some of the beliefs of the Church, and a network was already well set in place for the rapid production and distribution of their writings. Second, the printing press allowed Christian teaching to be widespread. The main book being printed on the printing press was the Bible, and as more were printed, more people became readers, and readers demanded books. This spread literacy. As long as they were literate, individuals no longer needed to rely on religious authorities for knowledge, interpretation, and analysis of the Bible. Now they were able to form their own opinions about the Bible and their faith through reading themselves. Even for the illiterate, the Bible became more accessible because now pastors could read from and preach about the Bible. Third, the printing press ensured that identical copies of the same text could be reproduced over and over with limited errors. Before the printing press, when scribes transcribed and copied texts, they could accidentally make unwanted mistakes, which could corrupt the original text. Finally, all people could read the same text at the same time, including the Bible.